Today I'm going to be going over the SQ4R study method. So this is a 6-step study technique that asks students to survey, question, read, recite, relate, and review content as they study and complete reading assignments. While this method does add time to the reading assignment, it is very much beneficial because it improves the students' understanding of what they have read. While I believe that this study technique is effective for all students across all grades, I want to essentially focus on the first grade standard ELA GSE 1R15, which states that students should know and use various text features such as headings, tables of contents, glossaries, electronic menus, icons, to locate key facts and information in the text. So the SQ4R method requires students to look into and take notice of these such features such as the captions, the titles, the subtitles, the charts, the pictures, etc., in order to plan out and essentially get a grasp of the main idea and purpose of the text. So when we are tackling this standard right here, we would be introducing the SQ4R study technique to these students in order to give them the tools they would need in order to more effectively get through the text. This is especially important for nonfiction and textbook area texts. So, if I introduce this to my students in preparation for studying, so I'm teaching them early study techniques that will allow them to build upon their knowledge throughout their school term, and it'll make studying and it'll make achieving academically easier for these students to grasp because they are building those good habits right from the get-go, right as they're being introduced to these captions and subtitles and text features, which will give them context for why these features are important and how to use them effectively. In my first grade class, I would introduce a book like the one on the screen right now. This is a nonfiction book put out by the National Geographic Kids. And our first step would be to survey the book. So we would go through this book and we would take note of titles, subtitles, and we would look for the captions. We would look at the pictures. There's a caption right there. We would look at the pictures, and this would help us understand what the main idea and the purpose of this book is. So once we have done that, we would go back and we would go through the titles, subtitles, and captions and pictures and charts and all those other text features in order to essentially create questions for ourselves so that we set a purpose for our reading. We are looking for the answers to these questions. One of the things I wanted to note right here is when we are surveying the text, we also need to read the summary of each chapter if one is present. That way, when we come to this question or this step, the questioning step, we already know generally what we're going to be taught. And that will help us frame our questions in a more effective way. So this book doesn't have summaries at the end of its chapters, which will make making effective questions a little bit more difficult. but it is still very much doable. So let's say I'm going to write a question to essentially answer in the next step. So I would choose, say, a blue whale. So we have this caption, blue whale, right here, and we see that, and it's paired with this picture of this really big looking whale. And it's underneath the subtitle, Animals in the Oceans. So maybe I want to answer, why is the blue whale important? What is so significant about this blue whale that, one, it warrants a picture in the book, and not just a picture, but also a subtitle. And then you come over here and it's like, what are these? These are weird. You come over here and you look at your caption. It says a close-up of plankton creatures so tiny you often need a microscope to see them. How does something so tiny exist in something as huge as the ocean? So those could be our questions. And then we would move into the next step, which is read. So what we're going to do is we're going to read this book, or we're going to read with our questions in mind. So we want to answer our questions, or we want to look for the answers to our questions as we are reading. So we would read through, and maybe we can't find the answers to some of our questions. That's fine. So that would be respond. So we would respond to the questions that we can find the answers to. And then the other questions we have that maybe the text didn't answer them. Then we would make sure that we either rephrase that question, or we write down the other important information as we find it through the text that relates kind of back to the question we had originally asked. So, and once we do that, we are going to record. So we're going to put everything in our journals, ELA, science, math, reading, whatever journal or whatever class we are in, we would record everything that we've done in our journals, in our notebooks, for future reference, because the next step is review. So review is very important. This is how we're going to build knowledge base. It's how we're going to remember what we've learned, and how we're going to prepare for tests and projects and assignments. Is we're going to review what we have written. So this is what we're going to study. So we've recorded all of our notes. We've broken everything down. We know the main idea of the text. We know the purpose of the text. We've gotten down all the important information and the details and everything. And we put it in our journals, and now it's time to study them. Teaching this originally in the first grade, when you were introducing the ideas of these text features, will help students make that connection that these text features are very important and can guide them and help them read through texts, especially nonfiction texts and their textbooks, and it provides them a guide. And teaching it early, teaching it when you're first introducing text features, will greatly help them build those study habits, and it will help them nurture those study habits and get them to essentially use them and become a more successful student. Other than that, that is all I have for today. Thank you.